Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to Do Magetti IELTS speaking and writing lesson with me, Trevor Gordon. Today's lesson is about using pronouns when speaking and writing. As you can see, there are some examples of pronouns on the front. So let's proceed. One of the main things which students do when speaking, and more when writing, is to use the subject, object, or topic words repeatedly. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. So, I'm going to read this paragraph. I won't be reading it again. It will be repeated as I show you examples, but I'll read it now so we know what the paragraph is that we're going to work on. Okay. The government should spend more money on public services because public services are a huge part of people's everyday lives. People pay their taxes so they can be provided with public services, either for free or at an affordable cost. In recent years, there have been huge cuts to public services, and the government says that more money is needed. The government is in the process of raising tax rates so they can fund increased public services. And the government knows people will support raising tax rates. So this is an essay topic about government spending and public services. There are a few similar essay topics. I've just written this paragraph just as an example. So it's not from an essay, it's just something I've put together to demonstrate what we're going to work on today. So it can be clearly seen in the paragraph that certain nouns have been used repeatedly or repetitively, sorry. And this clearly shows that the writer either has no command of the use of pronouns or simply doesn't know how to replace the subject or object or topic nouns. Okay, so let's look at this paragraph again. So the person who's written this has actually repeated themselves numerous times. As you can see, in blue, government, in green, public services, in red, people, and in purple, raising tax rates. Okay, raising tax rate is actually an action, but it does include a noun. Tax rates, that's a noun. So we'll just treat it as a noun. So as you can see, this is not good for IELTS because you should not be repeating your topic words more than once. In fact, in most cases, you shouldn't really need to repeat it until you go to another paragraph. So for each paragraph you mention, you should only really use your topic word once and then you should substitute it. Okay, this kind of writing, which many teachers or tutors such as myself are presented with by students when they practice and submit essays. We see this all the time. This particular example may be slightly exaggerated, but real examples are similar. So this is the kind of thing we see, and this is the kind of thing we need to fix. So how can we fix it? This is the question. So let's find out. The first thing to do is to know how they can be replaced. Okay, so we use various types of pronouns to replace nouns. We can also remove the nouns, the pronouns or the nouns altogether in the sentence if there's an obvious reference to the topic or subject. But I'm going to do another video on that because I don't want to include it now. It will just confuse things. So what we can use are subject pronouns, object pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, and reflexive pronouns. There are a couple of others that we can use. Possessive, pronouns, possessive adjectives, etc. But I've just dealt with these now again to keep things clear. So the first thing I should mention is you don't use I or you, or you shouldn't use I or you in an academic essay. So I've removed them. What you've got here is he, she, it, we, they. And object pronouns, him, her, it, us, them. Demonstrative pronouns, we can use all of them. Singular, this, that, plural, these, those. And then we have reflexive pronouns, which very rarely use, but I will give you an example of one. So the references for those pronouns. Remember, subject pronouns can reference both people and objects. I've come across students who thought they only reference people. No, they also reference objects. So whether it's single or plural, they can reference anything. So they're both plural and singular, so they must also agree with the noun they replace. So if it's a singular noun, it must be a singular pronoun. If it's a plural noun, it must be a plural pronoun. So more often for subjects, we focus on it and they more than he, she, or we. It's just common. We talk about things, whether they're plural things or single things, and we talk about people as plural. If we talk about a person, we would use he or she. Very rarely do we use we, so these two are the most prominent. Same with the object pronouns. It and them feature much more than him, her, or us. Demonstrative pronouns are the same in the fact that they use plural and single. This, that, singular, these, those, plural. And then we have reflexive pronouns, which I've given the most prominent here again, itself for an object, or sometimes an animal, and themselves, usually for people. So we have an example here. People who do not exercise need to take care of themselves, meaning take care of themselves in other ways, like eat better, eat more healthily, or don't smoke, or whatever. If they don't exercise, they have to do other things to take care of themselves. So that's a simple example of using the pronoun, reflexive pronoun, to replace the noun. But again, as I said, not as common as the other pronouns. Okay, so here is the paragraph again. And what I've done here is I've referenced our key topic words, objects, subjects, etc., with their pronouns. So the government can be it, they, or them, because some people think of the government as one thing. So you will often see in writing, the government has done this, but you will also see the government have done this, because some people think the government is a group of people. So we're talking about people. So they use they, which is acceptable. But some people, other people, sorry, think that the government is a body, one unit. So they use singular. Both have been used. So for me, I think as long as your grammar, your sentences match and the grammar matches, you can use plural or single. Public services is plural, so it can be they, them, or these. People can be they or them. Raising tax rates is an action. So we can use it as a subject, it as an object, or this, meaning this action. Okay, slight note here, which you should know already, but I like to reiterate things sometimes. Once we introduce a noun into a topic sentence, or when we introduce a noun, we have to use the actual noun to begin. Otherwise, people will not know what we're talking about. We can't introduce something by saying they are going on strike next week. Well, who are they? So if I said the workers are going on strike next week, you will understand. But if I said they are going on strike next week, you won't know who I'm talking about. So introduce with the full noun and then move on to pronouns. So after the noun has been introduced, it's invariably not used unless in a different paragraph or it needs to be referenced to avoid confusion. Sometimes it's not clear which thing you're using the pronoun for, so sometimes we have to repeat the noun to make it very clear to the reader or listener. So here are our sentences. The government should spend more on public services because they, public services, are a huge part of people's lives and many individuals depend on them. So both of these things link back to public services. The explanation for that is under here. So please read that. I don't want to make the video too long, so I'll move on. People pay their taxes so they, this is referring back to people again as the subject, will be provided with these, meaning public services, either for free or at an affordable cost. Because we know we're talking about public services, we've already referenced people here, so these, plural again, will be public services. Again, here's the explanation underneath. Now, in recent years, there have been huge cuts and more money is needed to fund the restoration of those things. Now, here we can say those things, but it's a bit vague. So what I've done is, or what you can do is, give some examples to make it clear, to people that it is public services you're still talking about. Hospitals, schools, public transport, they form part of public services. So when you reference those things, it becomes clear that we're still talking about public transport. This is a situation where you might need to be more clear because this, saying those, might not be clear enough. And the final thing, raising tax rates might be required to restore most services. So we've used services, but not public services. Just again, we just want to make sure that the listener or reader knows what we're talking about. And it is believed that it or this will be supported across the country. So you can say it equals raising tax rates, or this, the action of raising tax rate. This action will be supported. So you can use it or this for this one, and it's singular, of course. Okay, so it's your turn now. What I've done is I've written 4 sentences about different topics, not related to the one we've been working on. Crime, females in the workplace, becoming older, and the tobacco industry. 4 random topics that I've just picked out from IELTS questions. And I've created these sentences. They're not from the titles. I've just created them. So we have, the first sentence has 1, 2 missing pronouns. Second sentence has 1, 2 missing pronouns. The third sentence has 1, 2, 3, 4 missing pronouns. And the fourth sentence has 1, 2, 3 missing pronouns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a minute to, not a minute, I'll give you a couple of minutes, maybe 2 minutes, to look at these sentences, go through them all and see if you can work out which pronouns need to be used. So we have crime, females, employment. The older you become. So look for the topics carefully, the tobacco industry. The topics, the subjects, or sometimes the objects, they give you the idea of what the pronoun can be or should be. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of minutes just to do that, and then we'll look at the answers. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that's given you plenty of time. If it hasn't, you can always stop the video. Remember, stop the video and then do the exercise and then just start the video again when you want to, if you don't feel that that time was long enough. So your choice, take your time. If you need longer, stop the video and use the extra time. Okay, so here are the answers. So again, I've labeled, color coded, sorry, the pronouns that we're using and the different types of pronoun. So the first one is it and it, because crime is a singular topic and it's a subject here and an object here. So we could replace this sentence with the word crime and it would still be a viable sentence, but it just wouldn't be as good in terms of IELTS because we would be repeating crime twice. So just to give you a quick example, I won't do it with the others. Crime is on the increase in most major cities and crime is making people more suspicious of others. The government has to take strong measures to tackle crime. So we hear crime, crime, crime. That's not good at all. So we've substituted it. The second one is an increasing number of females are now enjoying employment. It, now females enjoying employment, that is it. It's a singular thing. Is seen as another step in the direction of them, meaning females, gaining equal status. Some people opine or believe, that's their opinion, that's the verb form, that the older you become, the more issues life creates. This, meaning this thing, the older you become, the more issues life creates, is a singular topic. So we say this, or we could say it. It is something. So both are okay. Something which this essay fully disagrees with. As they age, people have different things to contend with. So we've used the pronoun here first. This is, again, as another little trick that you can use. Use the pronoun before the noun. Sometimes we do because it's just breaks up the flow. If we want to make something more varied, we can just change the order, but you've got to know what you're doing. You have to be able to do it correctly. So here's a very simple example of using the pronoun first as an emphasis. So as they age, they obviously means people. People have different things to contend with, but they, going back to people, do not see them. Them is different things to contend with as problems, but merely adjustments. And the final one is the tobacco industry is an important part of the economy despite the health issues. This or it is probably better, but sometimes we say this thing, the health issues from the tobacco industry is an issue. So you could say this brings, but it is better. Cigarettes and their sale should be controlled so they, cigarettes, are not easily available, and minors, meaning people under 16 years old, can be dissuaded, opposite of persuaded, from getting into the habit of smoking them again. Them goes back to cigarettes. Okay, so that's one exercise you can do. We've also provided you with some practice links in the description, so click on that and you'll get some more exercises. This skill is very important in IELTS, and it's very important in English in general. And you should also follow this through in your reading and listening, because reading and listening will also be littered with pronouns in the text that you read and the audio that you listen to in the exam. They will both be full of pronouns. So don't just stick to speaking and writing. Move it over or extend it. That's the word, extend it to your reading and listening. And I think it will help you tremendously. Okay, this is the end of the lesson. As a final reminder, good use of pronouns, is essential to obtain a high score. but it is also an essential part of the everyday use of the language and will help you moving forward. So that's just basically saying, you know, if you're going to take your English use further and use it in an environment every day or often, then these things will help you in your day-to-day use of English. And final piece of advice, practice these things. Practice writing sentences, practice speaking to become more comfortable when using pronouns. Okay, please like or dislike, subscribe, comment, share, hit the notification button because we do want to try and get up to do streaming. We need a lot more subscribers. The channel is only a few months old, so I believe we will get there, but with your help, we can get there and do live streaming lessons. So also, please visit our website. This is our regular IELTS website, which has lots of information and lots of material. And also, we do some self-study online courses for very, very attractive costs. So we do a grammar course in preparation for IELTS, which has 22 units of different grammar. We have a 10-hour IELTS course for the higher level students. We also have a 20-hour IELTS course for lower level students. And we also have combinations where you can do the grammar course and the 20-hour or the grammar course and the 10-hour together, which again are much cheaper. So take a look at those. There are some example lessons on the site. All you have to do is just go to the site. Some of the lessons you can see for free, and you can go through the whole lessons and see if it's something that you think will be useful to you. Okay, thank you again, and I will see you hopefully in another video.